Welcome to another episode of the Balancing Hormones Naturally podcast, where we offer actions and steps you can take today to start balancing your hormones naturally. This is your podcast host, Leah Brueggemann. I am a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner. I am honored and excited to be your guide on your journey to better understanding your hormonal health and how it affects your everyday life. Hey ladies, welcome back to another episode. We have a super special guest today that wanted to hop in and say hello. Can you say hi?
Hi.
So Landon's here for this podcast episode. So if you hear somebody talking about trucks or popping in to say hi, that is him. This week has been so busy. So my brother is getting married this weekend, and so we've just been in full wedding prep and decorating the hall. Okay, you gotta be really quiet, okay? Decorating the hall and bachelorette party and all of the things. So anyways, I don't even remember. So my typical day for recording podcasts is on Wednesday. I had a doctor's appointment for baby Killian, and then, or me, I guess it's both, a doctor's appointment for both of us. And then we had to decorate the hall, and we didn't get back till late. So unfortunately, we are recording this last minute, but it's okay. Everything's still going to be amazing. Doctor's appointment went awesome. If you haven't listened to my pregnancy podcast, I have basically a holistic OBGYN, and he's incredible, and it's just the clinic in him. So you see him every single time, and he talks to you about supplements or whatever. He even has a plan to help support your gut microbiome, because you pass that on to the baby, so it'll help with baby's allergies. And I just really have enjoyed working with him. I obviously haven't delivered with him, so we'll see how that process goes, but so far prenatal care has been incredible. He does cranial sacral therapy, and then he also has another occupational therapist who does cranial sacral therapy. She actually can come to your house, which is really nice. And so we had her in this week as well to just help with SI joint, sacrum, alignment, which it helps so much with pubic bone pain, but also making sure everything's aligned will also help with not having a cervical lip, which I had with Landon. So we're working on that this time. So what I wanted to talk about today is just kind of what should you expect from your period? What are your goals, and maybe some basic things you can start doing. In the future, I do want to do an episode on a beginner's guide to supplementing, because I think that so many people just randomly supplement. They're oh, I have high estrogen, I'm gonna take this or whatever, and it may not be the best fit for you. So I just kind of want to do a beginner's guide. If you're not working with a practitioner, how do I do some good without doing harm? Because I think some people, when they're supplementing, do more harm than they do good. So I thought we'd do an episode on that. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But today we're going to talk about what is a good period? What does a good period look like? Just the basics basically. So your period should be every 26 to 36-ish days. So that means you start counting your period, your cycle, from day one. So day one of your bleed is day one, and then let's say your next period starts on day 34. That means you have a 33-day cycle. Does that make sense? If you're spotting before your period, you don't call that day one. Day one is literally bleed. I need a pad, I need a tampon, I need period underwear, I need a menstrual cup, whatever you use. So I think it's important to kind of just think about that. So if your cycles are longer or shorter than that, you go into the range of what we call irregular cycles. And why is this is typically due to like irregular ovulations. So if you have really short cycles, like they're like every 20 days, it's very likely that you are not ovulating, or you have a really short luteal phase. So that's from ovulation to your period. So if you're over here going, I don't know how to track my cycle or how to track ovulation, go back to one of the very first episodes of the podcast. It's like, I think it's like episode 2 or 3 or something like that, but it's how to track your cycle. So I would start there. If your cycles are really, really long, you're basically dealing with, again, irregular ovulation. Your follicular phase is too long. You aren't ovulating. So there's so many things that could be going on there. Like, is it brain ovarian connection? Because you're coming off of birth control, or maybe your estrogen's not getting up high enough, or maybe there's something wrong with your follicle stimulating hormone, or so there's so many things that could go there. But the first step is to start tracking and start really understanding your cycle, right? So that's the first thing you want to know, like how long should cycles be? And then you want them to be consistent for you. So like, let's say you have a 25-day cycle, and then you have like a 30-day cycle, and then you have a 26-day cycle, and then you have like a 37-day cycle. Even though that's all kind of within the realm of normal, that is way too much fluctuation per cycle. You really don't want to be fluctuating more than like 3 to 4 days per cycle. Like, yes, you're not always going to ovulate exactly on the same day. Some people do, but like, you don't want to have like 3 or 4 more days of fluctuation in your cycle. So like maybe you have a 30-day cycle and a 34-day cycle. That's fine. That's totally fine. No 30-day cycle and then 25-day cycle and 30-day cycle and 37-day cycle. Like, we're not looking for that big of a fluctuation. So that's important to note. You also want to be taking note of like where you're ovulating. Like, are some cycles you're ovulating on day 10 and then other cycles you're ovulating on day 17, Those are all things, you want to pay attention to, because your ovulation is what is really, when you ovulate, is really determining the length of your cycle. Because what determines the length of your cycle is pre-ovulation, right? Because for some people, that's 5 days. For some people, that's 10 days. For some people, that's 12 days. It really depends. But after you ovulate, you really, truly are looking for about a 12-day luteal phase. So that means after that TEM spike, you want 12 days before the first day of that bleed. That gives you such a strong corpus luteum, lots of progesterone, okay? Most people's, or if you have a regular good cycle, most people's are between 12 and 14 days, okay? Once it starts getting under 12 days, start getting a little iffy with that progesterone, okay? And you literally can't go longer than 17 days. It's 17 days, like your period should be there or you're pregnant, okay? So when people are like, my period is late, your period's not late. Ovulation would have been delayed due to stress, lack of minerals, irregular ovulation, like whatever, insulin resistance. And then that therefore is going to push out your period. Does that make sense? Periods need to be preceded by ovulations. So like if you are, you're waiting for your period and you're like, dang, my period's 10 days late. It's like, your period's not 10 days late. You always want to go look at what your ovulation was looking like. So I hope that makes sense, because some people will have withdrawal bleeds without ovulating. That happens a lot of times if you're like, dang, I'm bleeding like every 20 days, right? So that's why I think your first step needs to go back and listen to that episode on how to track your cycle, learn how to track your cycle, start there, and then come back here and be like, okay, what's normal? What am I looking for? Like, what is my cycle looking like, okay? And then in terms of bleeding, you don't want to be bleeding, you want to be bleeding within like 3 to 7 days. So less than 3 days, you probably aren't ovulating. More than 7 days, that's a lot of blood. You guys, that's a lot of bleeding. You shouldn't be bleeding more than 7 days. So your blood should be that cherry red or deep wine red color, right? Brown blood, can be a sign of a tipped uterus. It can be a sign of low progesterone. Light pink blood, you're looking at potentially light pink purpley blood. You're looking at low estrogen. Black blood, really talk to your provider, please. Things like that. You shouldn't be having a ton of clots. If you have a ton of clots or a ton of blood, we're looking at potentially low progesterone, estrogen dominance. And when I mean like a lot of blood, like you should be losing about 25 milliliters to 50 milliliters per period. Once you pass like over 80, that's a pretty heavy period. Under 25 milliliters is too light of a period. And you're like, I don't know what that is, Leah. So a normal tampon or pad holds about 5 milliliters. Overnight holds about 10 milliliters. So I hope you can kind of do the math there and figure that out. So that's a little bit about like the blood aspect and the cycle lengths and all of that. And then some other things to just kind of take note of is like, you should just bleed. There shouldn't be bloating. There shouldn't be PMS. You shouldn't want to kill people before your period. You shouldn't have a ton of anxiety and mood swings. You shouldn't be super bloated. You shouldn't want to like eat the entire house apart. You shouldn't have really painful cramps. You shouldn't be puking. You shouldn't be any of those things. No matter how common they are not normal. Okay, there are red flags to your body saying, hey, something is up. And then it's your job to listen. We're always like, I wish my body would just talk to me and tell me what's wrong. Your body is talking to you and telling you what's wrong. You need to listen. You need to slow down and listen. Yes, you may be a little bit more tired on your period. That's okay. You're literally shedding a uterine lining. But like it shouldn't be that exhaustive fatigue like you can't carry on. You get migraines and you can't carry on. That's not good, right? You may just be, a little bit lower energy. Maybe you don't want to socialize with a ton of people. That's totally normal. That's totally okay, right? You have to remember you're shedding uterine lining. You're losing a lot of blood. You're losing vitamins, minerals, all that stuff. So honor where your body's at. Slow down a little bit, right? But like if you get really, really, really bitchy, I know I used that word, but like, you know what I mean? Or you just feel like, give me chocolate now, or like I will strangle you. Why is this podcast so violent? But you guys know what I'm talking about. You know the feeling. It's not like I need that or I want that. It's like I need that. You know how I love a good old tart cherry juice to help you sleep, or a topical magnesium gel if you're having some trouble getting in your magnesium. And I have sent you to 1,000 different brands to try and get all of these different products. But I'm very excited to share with you Ro Casa Organics, which I'm so excited to partner with because they have such an incredible ingredient policy, as well as their products are awesome. Literally, that's all I got to say. So again, a friend introduced me to these products and I'm like, okay, I'll try them out. Loved their ingredient policy. And so I started trying out different things. Literally went out and bought, spent my own money, you guys. I'm going to try these things out for sure before I recommend them. And the things that just spoke to me, the tart cherry juice has chamomile extract and valerian root. You guys, it was the tipping point for helping me sleep so much better while I'm pregnant. I even give a teaspoon of it to Landon and he's sleeping so much better. So we all know the troubles we've had with Landon sleeping. We use their elderberry juice. We use their magnesium gel. They have a muscle and joint cream, which when I popped my rib out, if you're following me on social media, that was, it was so helpful. So they have a tiger solve, which is using the plant-based bakuchiol to help with stretch marks. You can use this while you are pregnant. They have cleaning supplies, and I have just been sending so many clients to them because they have such an amazing ingredient policy. They have great prices, and you don't have to go to 5 different companies to get 5 different products. I can get all 5 of my products at one company, which I'm very thankful for. So those are a few of my favorite products I swear by that tart cherry juice, you guys. And I reached out to them to get a discount code for you, and it's a super easy to remember discount code. It's LEAH, my name, super easy. So definitely go try them out. They are giving you 20% off your first order. You will not regret it. Literally, if the only thing you get is the tart cherry juice, you will love me forever. But they do have amazing cleaning supplies, and like I said, I love their body butters and their hair spreads for postpartum hair growth. Literally, there's so many options, and like I said, their ingredient policy it's really, really good. So I'm very excited to partner with them. Or just overwhelming like rage where you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't even control this. We're talking about hormonal issues here, right? You know, a ton of bloating, you're breaking out, you're getting acne, like all of these are red flags to your body, okay? So pay attention to that. You may get like a slight warming sensation or maybe a little uncomfortableness as your uterus is contracting, but it shouldn't be like those cramps where you're like, oh, I need to go take some Advil, or this is like really affecting my, my peace of mind for the day, okay? We shouldn't be having those. You should just bleed, you guys. Same thing goes with ovulation. You may get a little bit of spotting on the day of ovulation. That's okay. That's from your follicle releasing the egg. And you may feel it a little bit, but it shouldn't be debilitating cramps. It shouldn't be like, whoa, my ovulation is worse than my period. You get these really bad cramps, you're really cranky, you break out really bad around your ovulation, or even you get really bad bloating. That's another one. That's telling you there's a lot of things going on around that ovulation. Like maybe you have an ovarian cyst, maybe your estrogen's too high, maybe your testosterone's too high, maybe you're having issues with those detox pathways. So I want you to just kind of like write down these red flags. And then the last thing is spotting before your period. You really don't want to have spotting before your period, you guys. Like your progesterone is like your grocery bag holding everything in, right? And so if you're spotting, you're like leaking groceries before you actually get to the house. That means progesterone's not strong enough, okay? So if you're like, yeah, I spot for a few days before my period, not great. Common, but not great, right? If you're spotting a ton after your period, this could actually be a tipped uterus, actually. This could be because it's affecting how your uterus is contracting and expelling everything. So I want you to like go back and listen to the episode on tracking your cycle if you didn't. And then I want you to like go through and just kind of like look at your cycle because it's your 5th vital sign, right? And I want you to be like, yes, okay, I have a bleed within 3 to 7 days. This is the color of my blood. And then write down your symptoms pre-period and just see like how many like check marks and how many X's you have. And then you're like, okay, this is where I can improve. This is where I'm killing it. And then maybe we'll go into more episodes, like specifically like how you can support like the different phases. If you'd like that, please let me know. Please like shoot me a message on Instagram. I really like hearing from you guys when you listen to the podcast. It's one of my favorite things when you're like, hey, I found you from the podcast. I just truly tell you I love you. I actually literally say that. And if this podcast is helpful for you, the best thing that you can do is share it with a friend. Like, this podcast is free, right? And the best way to support it is to share it with a friend. So share it to your socials, share it to someone who you think would benefit from it. And that means the world to me. So with that, we bid you goodbye. And Landon wants to say goodbye. Can you say bye? You have to use your words. They can't see you waving. Can you say bye?
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Balancing Hormones Naturally. If you found this helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend and post it on your stories and tag Balancing Hormones Naturally podcast so we can get this message out. You can find me on Instagram at Leah_BRUEG, and I would absolutely love to hear from you.